Juan at 6 p.m. May we rise for the invocation? Mr. Boyd, can you lead us in the invocation, sir? Thank you.
Let us pray. Lord, we give you thanks for this opportunity that you give us here today to be here united, Lord, in this meeting. I'm asking you to bless everyone, protect everyone. Let us be all in one accord, and this is for the best of the city of San Juan. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
May we raise the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, under
The first item, if I may change them out of order, I'd like to present the presentation and proclamation on the National Day of Prayer to be held on May the 3rd, 2018. We have Pastor Nuno here with us, Dr. Nuno Rodriguez, and Pastor Bowie, Hector Bowie, that are going to say something on the National Day of Prayer. As you know, this National Day of Prayer has been, we have been practicing this prayer for the past few years, and this year is not going to be an exception if the commission approves that way. But Mr. Dr. Rodriguez.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners of the City of San Juan.
good evening, sir.
My name is Nuno Rodriguez, and I am here representing the Coalition for the Greater San Juan. The National Day of Prayer was created in 1952 by a joint resolution of Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. In 1988, the law was unanimously amended by both the House and the Senate and signed into law on Thursday, May the 5th, 1988, by President Ronald Reagan. Consequently, the first Thursday of May was designated as the Day of National Prayer. Since 1952, every president has signed a National Day of Prayer proclamation. Prayer brings people together. Prayer builds bridges between opposing individuals, including political parties. Prayer reminds us that we are created in God's image, and His desire is that we represent Him everywhere we go. Prayer brings unity. In 2018, the theme will be Pray for America, Unity, based upon Ephesians 4:3. The scripture challenges us to mobilize unified public prayer for America, making every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Therefore, on May the 3rd, 2018, joining our great nation, the Coalition for the Greater San Juan, will be working in partnership with the City of San Juan to celebrate the National Day of Prayer. Our National Day of Prayer will be conducted in front of City Hall from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will have a time of praise and worship and a time of prayer for our nation, our beautiful city, and our beautiful people of San Juan. Parks and Recreation Department will be preparing the facilities for the event, and the entire city of San Juan community is invited to participate and support this National Day of Prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next item, it'll be at the presentations, which is the presentation of departmental reports. We have Department of Planning and Zoning, the Library Department, Department of Sanitation, and Department of Parks and Recreation. Everybody's here ready, available. Should you have any questions on those reports?
Questions at this time for the directors?
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
just, like I said, there might be some people in the public, in the audience that want to know about the streets. That meeting has been changed for Thursday?
Yes, Commissioner, Mayor, we're gonna have a workshop because the bid that was submitted was over budget. So what we didn't wanna do was take up some streets that, to meet the budget. So what we decided to do was have a workshop so that bring it before you all, and you all make a decision as to what streets to cut. If not, we can use some leftover monies that were saved, or not saved, but we came under on the,
Phase one?
on the phase one. We have additional funding that we can use for the second phase. But that'll,
This is for this Thursday at 5:15.
this coming
5:15.
Thursday, 5:15.
Yes, sir.
And it'll
Okay.
be brought before the commission for approval on the following meeting, which it'll be, I wanna say the 30th.
I'm asking that question just for those people that are concerned about their streets, that, who will have that workshop on Thursday, and we are working on that phase two to come up and start getting going with those streets also.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
That process been going on for years now? The phases and whatnot?
I'm sorry, but, it's good, the public we cannot answer the public, but, we'll have it on Thursday, and we're gonna have a workshop, and that is coming, phase two.
So if you want to, sir, if you want to just go ahead and stick around after we're done, we can address your concern, sir. Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Go ahead, Mr.
Next item, item C, presentation and recognition to the San Juan Police, the Communications Division. Do we have Mr. Sergeant Garcia?
Perfect timing.
Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager.
Good evening, sir.
The week of April 8th through the 14th has been designated as National Telecommunications Week. We have 6 outstanding dispatchers that have been employed with us, varying ranges of years, ranging from more than 10 to one of our newest hires, which is Mr. Diaz, that has less than 6 months. As many of you know, Mayor, you started in radio with us. Commissioner Sanchez, you're in law enforcement as well. The dispatchers are often seen as the backbone of any agency. They're the first point of contact with the public that the city has, whether it be an administrative need or whether it be something in the need of a crisis or an emergency. So this week is designed to give that recognition for the people that are working behind the scenes that are very rarely seen. Citizens don't make face-to-face contact with these guys. It's something that's done over the phone. There is a saying, between the thin blue line and the thin red line, there is a thinner gold line that represents the small amount of loyal employees that the city has that do the job of answering our 911 calls, answering the medical calls, fire, police, and just general administrative stuff throughout the day. So I have 2 of my communications officers here with us today. Ms. Esquivel and Ms. Mireles would like to stand up. These as well, they're fairly new employees, but they're dedicated to the job. They're able to multitask. It takes a very special person to be able to sit behind that radio console and help them out. So we would like to recognize them for their efforts they do for the city and keeping us in law enforcement and the citizens safe.
Thank you so much for coming on board, and just like Garcia was mentioning, it takes special people to do this type of line of work, because I know when I was doing it for a while, I was like, wow, this is just totally, totally different. And, you know, your people's lives are in your hands. And you're the backbone and you're the eyes of the officers and the first responders that go and help and assist. So once again, thank you so much for the great work that you guys do, as well as your officers and all our fire department as well. Thank you.
I would like to say something, for the public that don't understand what really communication is all about. Basically, these are lifelines for law enforcement that are out there on the road. They know exactly where the police officer's at. I know sometimes our citizens get a little frustrated because of the lack of, actually with the amount of questions they have. But in all reality, they're preparing the officer for their arrival, or an ambulance, or a public safety, as far as like fire chief or fire department to get there. And those are the most important. They play a very big function in this department in the city. And I want to congratulate every single one of you guys. People don't understand the level of stress that you all have, knowing that a police officer or a firefighter or a police officer is getting beaten up and they can't do anything about it but just listen behind a radio. And I want to commend for you guys that you all do this work day in, day out, and I thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to have Mr. Patrick Willingham introduce somebody that's not a stranger to this arena, our Parks and Recreation Supervisor that just came on board a couple of weeks ago.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. I just want to take a brief moment to introduce one of our newest staff members. He plays a vital role in our department. He's our new recreation supervisor. Here in the city of San Juan, we all in the Parks and Rec wear many hats, have a lot of different programs and different functions. And Mr. Ramiro Moreno comes to us with 25 years of experience in Parks and Recreation. He is the Region 2 Regional Director for Texas Amateur Athletic Federation. So he brings that to the city as well. That'll be play a big role in their summer track meets, tennis, swimming events, and things of that nature. So he's already hit the ground running. We had a great event this past Saturday, 50-plus teams, over 650 kids that came out and participated in opening day ceremonies. So plans for the summer are already in the works to have a bigger and better summer program. So I just wanted to introduce to you so you can put a name to a face, because he's going to be out there and he'll be at a lot of our events, as he already has, Mr. Ramiro Moreno.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for the Commissioner, Mayor, Mr. Arjona, City Manager, for giving me the opportunity to work here for the City of San Juan. Looking forward, I met Mr. Ramirez last night at the baseball game, the 4U, and it's looking forward to seeing the Mayor at this past Saturday opening ceremonies, and it's great being out there, seeing the community this size getting ready to grow, and it's at that cusp right now, and we just want to get it at that level where it needs to be at. And once again, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to for many, many years working here.
Thank you so much. Welcome on board. Thank you. And you're in good hands with our director, Mr. Willingham, and our assistant director, Mr. Ruben Guajardo. They've done wonderful stuff, as well as their staff. So we're looking forward to working with you as well. And if there's anything you need in our part, don't hesitate. Speak to them, and this commission here can tell you that we're about the youth. I know there's times that we do get caught up with a lot of other things, but one thing we do agree a lot on is building programs and for our youth, and hopefully, one day they'll become professionals. And we got a lot of talent out there. We see it firsthand. So once again, thank you for coming on board, and thank you, gentlemen, too, Mr. Willingham. Thank you.
I want to also commend Mr. Patrick Willingham and his assistant Ruben Guajardo and the new employee that we got. It's been a long time. They haven't seen so many kids in our youth. When we used to have it before, we used to have a big crowd of kids. Then all of a sudden it went down for a little bit, but looked like everybody's coming back. and I commend you that, bringing all our kids back from, you know, I know that some of them are in trail leagues and, you know, selected teams and all that, but thank you for bringing all those kids back to our parks. Appreciate that a lot, man. Thank you.
The next item on the presentations, we have Mr. Mike Cano from Lineberger, Bogan, Blair, and Sampson to present the 6-month collection report.
Thank you, Mr. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening, sir.
Just for the record, Michael Cano, partner with Linebarger. As you know, we're your delinquent tax attorneys of record. I may want to kind of guide you all through what happened the past couple of years to kind of bring everybody up to speed, especially those new commissioners on the commission. We represented the city of San Juan for several decades in the collection of the delinquent taxes. A couple of years ago, there was a change in administration, and obviously the city made a change in their delinquent tax attorneys. And even though we ceased to collect for the city of San Juan, I was still very much involved with all your taxpayers here because I do collect for PSJ ISD, Hidalgo County, South Texas ISD, and South Texas College. So what does that basically mean? For all your taxpayers who pay tax here in the city of San Juan, also have to pay taxes to the other entities, I've been working with those taxpayers even if I wasn't collecting for the city. Now, fortunately, back in June of 2017, the city did make the decision to come back to our firm for the collection of delinquent taxes. We did not start collecting taxes until August of 2017. Now, the prior firm had obviously a contract with the city that allowed them a 6-month wrap-up, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. But basically, even after the city terminated the prior firm, they had 6 months to continue collecting taxes on all the accounts that they had initiated litigation on, which is a majority of the tax money that is available to collect here in the city of San Juan. So basically for 6 months, from August through February the 20th of this year, the city basically had 2 different tax law firms collecting on our behalf. They had the prior firm collecting on all the pending litigation, and then you had us collecting on the rest that was not in litigation. So basically what I'm here to do today is give you all a wrap-up or a report on that wrap-up period, because that's really comparing apples to apples because we're both collecting in the same jurisdiction, and that's what you'll find in your report. Now, what you see up on the screen, that second page of our report, which is page 3, shows what we did in the past 6 months, which is we filed 84 new lawsuits, trying to collect a little over $250,000. We took some judgments. Obviously, we filed some non-suits once the accounts are paid, and you'll see that we obviously contacted your taxpayers. And really what I want to focus your attention on is where it says property inspections. It means that, 145 times we went out to different properties here within your jurisdiction and met with the taxpayers, talked to them. That's what we call our knock and talk program. That's really where I think that sets us apart from anybody else and really where we strike most of our payment agreements. And then on the bottom, you'll see our 6-month plan going forward. What we plan to do is file more additional lawsuits, about 20 per month, and you'll see the mailings and whatnot. Now, if you'll turn the page to page 4, this is really the meat and potatoes of what we do, which is collect money for the city. And you'll see what we collected, even though we were not able to collect on litigation accounts, with a very limited accounts that we had to collect from. What we collected is in blue, what the prior firm collected is in red. So you'll see on the bottom of that page, there's a total, and we collected just over $250,000 on behalf of the city of San Juan, compared to $73,000 that was collected by the prior firm. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves. I think the city made the right decision in hiring our firm back. But what I'd really like to talk about is not so much about the numbers. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and again, the numbers don't lie. I think the city made the best decision. But I'll tell you that one of the biggest heartbreaks that I had when the city elected to go out with someone else is everybody within this county, I think across the state now, has tried to make the tax process as easy and as effective for everybody. Back in the old days, some of you remember that every taxing jurisdiction had a different tax office. Every tax jurisdiction would apply a different appraised value to your home. So the county may appraise your house at $120,000, but the city may appraise it at $150,000. So many decades, a couple decades ago, we created the Hidalgo County Appraisal District to give taxpayers a unified appraisal for their home, for tax purposes. And the same thing has happened with tax bills. Instead of having to pay our taxes, back in the old days, some of you may remember Lupe Rodriguez, who was on the commission here. Lupe was a tax collector at PSJ, then you had a different one for the city, one for the county, Tito Trevino, where everything's been consolidated. And that is why, so the taxpayer gets one consolidated tax statement every year, one appraised value that they have to protest, and it makes it a lot easier for the taxpayer. So what happened is, when we were collecting for the city of San Juan, we collected for every other taxing jurisdiction that your taxpayers pay taxes to. So for many decades, your taxpayers would go to our office, make a payment agreement with our office, and they slept well at night knowing that if they made their payment, because that payment agreement is directly with our office, it's not with every individual taxing entity. If they pay, si hacen sus paguitos of $350, $400, whatever they pay per month, they were guaranteed that their house was not going to be foreclosed on. What happened after this city made the decision to switch firms a couple years ago is those taxpayers still had a contractual obligation to make payments to our firm, because we're still collecting for PSJ, the county, everybody else, but they now had to deal with a second firm. So suddenly, they not only had to pay their $350 payment to our firm, and of course, the numbers vary, but they now have to enter into a second agreement, or that law firm was now, obviously threatening foreclosure and litigation and whatnot. So I dealt with a lot of taxpayers that were really dumbfounded. They didn't understand why they have to enter a second payment agreement, deal with a second firm, and a lot of them couldn't afford these second agreements. So in coming back to our firm, I think really the biggest benefit is to your taxpayers. Obviously, there's a benefit to the city. We're collecting more money for the city at the same rate, which is 15%. But I think the biggest benefit, and I really want the mayor and the commission to understand this, is for your taxpayers, that they can sleep well at night, they make one payment with one firm, and that's it. So again, I'm really proud of the work that my staff has done over the past 6 months. I think the numbers speak for themselves as far as our professionalism, as far as the work that we do in collecting for the city. I think you've made the right decision, because it's easier for the taxpayers, and speaking to many of your taxpayers, they've expressed that they're happy they get to deal with one law firm again. And we're really looking forward to, now before I came here, I got the March numbers. This past March is the first month that we got to collect taxes on behalf of the city of San Juan entirely by ourselves, if that makes any sense. We collected $75,706 this past March of 2018, compared to the prior March, which the prior firm was handling on its own. They collected $51,000, so we're already 48% above what the prior firm had collected.
Now, Mr. Cano, what about the delinquent tax?
This is, all I'm talking about is delinquent tax.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I collected, the 75,000 is all delinquent taxes.
Oh, okay, great.
Right. I don't deal with any of the current
This
taxes.
graph illustrates all delinquent,
All delinquent,
not overall, right?
not overall, all delinquent taxes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I deal with is delinquent taxes. And I'll tell you, Mayor, it's actually a very good question, because an overwhelming majority of your taxpayers within the city pay their taxes on time. And I want the commission to understand that. About 90% of your taxpayers pay their taxes on time. So we're dealing with a very small percentage of those who do not pay. And our fees are paid not by the city, but by those who pay late, and only when they pay late. The statute allows us to charge an additional 15% in attorney's fees, and so that is tacked on to the tax bill, and we only get paid after we collect that money. So all your taxpayers, and again, about 90% of your taxpayers who pay taxes to the city, those who pay on time, not a penny of their money ever goes to pay our fees. We only collect from those who pay late and when they actually pay late.
So, your cap is 15, your cap is 20 by the state. It used to be 15, and House Bill picked it up to 20. You all went to 20 and then dropped it back to 15. But cap is 20, unless I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, this,
So that's totally, another thing is that I know that the delinquent payers are the ones that they pay the fee, the 15%, but I still represent the delinquent payers. And sometimes it's hard when my aunt or my neighbor is in delinquent and they're still struggling to pay those 15%. So I still represent the taxpayer.
and I completely agree with that, Mr. Garcia. And just to clarify everything, the Texas property tax allows delinquent tax attorneys to charge up to 20%. And what Mr. Garcia is referring to is our firm, along with many other firms across the state that are in this industry, at one point in time went from 15% up to 20%, and then we have since been back down to 15% for many, many years. At the time, a couple of years ago, when this city made a change in law firms, we were charging 15%. The new firm that came in was also charging 15%. So there was not a net savings in legal fees for your delinquent taxpayers, and that is still the case today. We charge exactly the same amount as the prior firm did. I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
For Mr. Cano? No?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to thank you, and we look forward to keeping up our collection efforts, and hopefully, by the time we come back at this end of the fiscal year, we'll have some very positive results for you all.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cano, taking the time coming over here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Section 6, Public Hearing Ordinances. Conduct a public hearing, consider adoption of an ordinance in the first reading for a conditional use permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption at the Voodoo Lounge bar located at 1618 North Veterans Boulevard, legally described as the west 335 feet of the north 440 feet of the Lot 12, Block 5, John Clausen subdivision, and requested by Marina A. Trevino. Mr.
Mayor, City Commission, good evening. Ms. Trevino is proposing to reopen a bar under the name of the Voodoo Lounge and is requesting a late hours permit until 2 a.m. The proposed days and hours of operation are Tuesday through Saturday from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. and Sundays from 2 p.m. to 12 a.m. and the bar will be closed on Mondays. The Plan Department requested calls for service from the San Juan Police Department, and the records show calls for theft and alarm. The site was rated by the San Juan Police Department for illegal gambling activities back in October 24, 2017, but it was under the previous operator not related to Ms. Trevino. The Police Department has no objections to the reopening of this bar under the new operator. The letters were sent to 10 property owners, and nobody had any objections. And Planning and Zoning Commission met last week on April 5 and recommended approval unanimously, subject to the list of conditions listed in your packet.
They're leasing the facility or they own it?
It's a suite in that plaza on 495 and
They're
Veterans.
leasing it.
It's been a bar for many years. It was Buffalo's, if you remember. And then last year it was the Voodoo Lounge and Ms. Trevino, yes.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open this up at 6:28 p.m. Is there anyone here for or against? For or against? Can you go ahead and state your name, for the record, ma'am?
Marina Trevino.
Okay.
Oh.
About the business that you're trying to open.
Oh, we're planning to open, I guess, in June. It's going to be a mixed beverage and beer and wine license, so we're just trying to get it open as soon as possible.
You said June, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone else here for or against? For or against?
Rick Ramirez. I'm pleased with the hours of operation as I proposed on November 14, the hours of operation for weekdays. I proposed them to start at noon. Quite pleased with this projection that they proposed, and hopefully they'll be following our rules to maintain that permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone? If not, I'm going to go ahead and, any questions, members of the commission?
So the 2 a.m. is the norm for all the?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close this at 6:30 p.m. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Next item, conduct a public hearing, consider adoption of an ordinance in the first reading for a conditional use permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption at the new Rancho Grande restaurant located 101 South Nebraska Avenue, legally described as lots 1 through 12, Block 3, San Juan Regional Townside Subdivision, and requested by Mr. Robert Acosta. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, Mr. Acosta is applying for a conditional use permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption at the new El Rancho Grande restaurant and is requesting a late hours permit until 2 a.m. The proposed days and hours of operation for the sale of alcoholic beverages are Monday through Saturday from 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. and Sundays from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. 32 letters were sent out to surrounding property owners, and we had no phone calls or concerns from any of the surrounding property owners. Planning and Zoning Commission met last week and recommended approval unanimously, subject to the list of conditions in your packet.
I'm going to open this up at 6:31 p.m. Is there anyone here for or against? For or against? Can you please state your name for the record, sir?
Good evening, my name is Robert Acosta, and I represent El Rancho Grande restaurant here in San Juan.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta.
And we are here asking and requesting from the commission to allow us to sell liquor by the drink at this location, which is a new location located at 101 South Nebraska here in San Juan.
And so your number one source of income is food?
We sell food,
Okay.
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just merely going to be a compliment to the restaurant. We run 6 other restaurants here in the Rio Grande Valley. There are 3 in McAllen by the name of Costa Mesa. There's the one here in San Juan, one in Alamo by the name of El Dorado, and one in Wesco called El Dorado as well.
I just wanted to put that on the record, so.
Okay.
Is there anyone here for or against?
Rick Ramirez. Again, I'm satisfied with the time. As I mentioned again, on November 14, I proposed this, and I'm pleased and to see another restaurant, another opening have these hours, and I hope that this commission will change their mind, as only one commissioner really supported my proposed hours of operation for selling alcohol, and I would like to see more of this and hopefully an ordinance for this hours of operation. Thank you, Mr. Costa, and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Costa,
Yes, sir.
on this, are you gonna have a bar inside, or are you just gonna complement, sell beer and with meals?
It is a compliment to the beer, compliment to the restaurant. Basically, it's the same we have in McAllen, Costa Mesa, for example, on North 10th Street. I don't know if you've ever been there before. I believe you have, and that's basically what it's going to be.
So, and the reason I'm asking you is because, I have heard some comments that, that belonged to St. John's Parish at one time, and it was sold, and there was some maybe clause or something in the deed that said, like, years back, not now, that as long as it was never used like a bar or another dancing type deal, okay? And I would like to ask Mr. Viescas, because he works for the Basilica, and I asked him about that, just so people can know. Mr. Viescas, we want to say a few words on behalf of, and I know that this is totally with St. John's, but do you have an issue? Is there an issue there?
City Manager, we don't have an issue. We're confident that the city is doing everything that it needs to do to protect the citizens who visit the Basilica. So I talked to Father Jorge, our rector. He's confident that everything is doing legally, so we don't have an issue. Our concern is only with traffic, but that's another story.
Okay. And we wanted to make that connection so we can know that, the Basilica and, deals a lot of people here, and I think so you providing a nice place for people to come
Mr.
enjoy their
Commissioner,
meals.
we are responsible
and having
individuals.
a beer or a drink to complement their meals would only expand the business and the traffic to San Juan, and working together is the way to bring in our business and bring more revenue to the city of San Juan. And I just wanted, so the public at home also can understand that there is no conflict between the Basilica with your new business there. And
Could not be,
thank
sir.
you. I want to thank Mr. Viescas for, kind of sharing that with us.
Also, just want to state on the record, we had our legal department review the deed as well, make sure that everything was fine.
On the deed, it was a clear deed. There was no encumbrances. There were no
Yeah, well,
restrictions of any
and the
sort.
reason why I'm sharing that, Mr. Acosta, is just the language that was in there. They reviewed it, and they said it was perfectly fine. We're good to go. So I guess it's.
We're very excited to be been here for 20 years. I grew up right in the neighborhood, and, again, we have a vested interest in it going well here. Our investment dollars could have gone to McAllen, Edinburgh, other places, but we want to keep it here close by, because this is where we're from. This is where we grew up, and we love it here. And
Thank you
we're
so
very
much.
excited to see all of the expansion and all of the new businesses coming into the city. It's very exciting.
Thank you for staying here.
Thank you.
So is there any other questions for
Costa,
Mr.
I
Acosta?
compliment you on that building.
Thank you. You like it?
State-of-the-art building. Looks real good.
I think it looks nice.
Mr. Acosta,
Yes,
going back to what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned about the clause in the contract, were you familiar with it?
Familiar with
The clause that he mentions regarding the bar inside?
When I purchased the building from the San Juan EDC, the property, there was no clause that I was aware of at the time.
And since that time, has it been presented to you from anybody?
I had heard something, but it was just something that we didn't know anything about. Again, it was not anything, any documentation that I signed at the time, so, but I don't see whether it would be an issue, because again, it isn't just a bar, it's a restaurant, and it's a full-service restaurant
Right.
for a community that needs it.
Right, and I know, Commissioner mentioned, Mr. Viescas is here, and he's making reference to the Basilica itself. And Mayor did mention that legal counsel looked over the contract itself, but us approving this, if something should come up later on, any litigation between Mr. Acosta and the parish or the Basilica itself, city is not liable in any way. We have. No, that would be. It's gonna be between them. Services is to you all. Right. Okay, just to.
Yeah, no, we're talking about.
We're not
the
aware
deed,
of any future present
not the
issues at
contract
this
that
time.
he signed. Let me ask you this, when did you sign your contract with the EDC? Do you remember?
I do not. You remember?
I'm just curious.
I don't remember. I can actually look it up.
N-
My wife.
Yes, his wife, but I'm the.
Can you state your name for the record?
Marsha Acosta.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as any kind of restrictions, deeds, clauses, we were not presented with anything. So selling entity to us being the buyers and real estate agent, I would have reviewed any kind of restrictions that would have been presented to us. Nothing was presented. So in doing so, as far as maybe any other possibility of the property being sold with a clear title and no issues, that gets taken care of at the title company to make sure that there are no issues. So that gets taken care of already. So, you know, you passed over a clear title to us, you know, with no restrictions.
Gotcha.
Is the way it was sold.
And the only reason we brought it up is so the public can know that there are already questions about that. And we just want to make sure the public knows that, hey, we did ask the question, and we are in the intent that it's a clear deed. And we also check with somebody that, you know, asking their opinion from the Basilica, not that, you know, it was hard to put them in the spot, but I want to make sure that, you know, we work together, you know.
And we appreciate that because we hadn't heard
yes.
anything about
So
that clause.
that way, you know, it's up in the open and nobody's saying, hey, you're approving something without even questioning or asking. At least the commission has asked and we have checked, and I think so we're fine.
And definitely because they are neighbors,
Yes.
you know, we want to be, you know, in good standing with anybody that's around us. We work with, you know, our neighbors
And
directly
you
around
have
us.
provided good service there for many years, ma'am, and you're going
Many years.
to a higher
20.
scale. And I
Yeah.
think so, people that are going to come to San Juan to see the Basilica, which there's a lot of people every weekend, we're going to provide something of higher scale.
I don't know about you, but I think it's a pretty building.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, just for the record, as far as, you know, that clause,
Yeah.
you know, when we made an attempt to purchase, you know, at that point, we probably should have been presented with some documentation. If there were any issues, nothing was presented, we moved forward with the purchase.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions? If not, I'm gonna. Yes, sir, go ahead, sir, I'm sorry.
The reason is that original location for the mission
Yes.
for San Juan.
Yes,
That's where it started,
I got you.
and now we have a basilica. So it's for us, very, very important that that place be kept. You know, it's very nice, and I don't think you're gonna do anything to demean it, but we have to be concerned to say, you know, as we work with, we're trying to bring the original shrine back to the basilica when they create their own church. But I can tell you, they will wanna know 1954, that's where their mission started. So we just wanna be, you know, aware that that is where everything started for City of San Juan and the Basilica, and that's our concern.
All right.
Not a concern, just to advise you.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Thank you so much for being here, sir.
It's a restaurant.
And you know, I don't think we ever saw it as a bar.
No.
We just saw it as, you know, we just have to look like Commissioner Pitt said, it's a place for the City of San Juan to continue growing and the office to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Mr. Viescas. Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna go ahead and close this at 6:40 PM. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
It's been second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Acosta and
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Acosta. Thank you.
Next item, we have a discussion of possible action on the following matters. Discussion of possible action regarding South Texas College election for Board of Trustees, Single Member District Number 6 for the use of the Fire Station Number 2 located 2301 North Raul Longoria, San Juan, Texas 78589, for the early voting election day polling location administered by the Hidalgo County Elections Department. Ms. Cavazos. Yes, Ms. Cavazos.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
Ma'am.
In the past, we have allowed Hidalgo County Elections Department to use our fire station number 2 for county elections. In this particular letter that is attached in your packet, they want to use it for the early voting and election day for STC.
So it's only one voting side?
Yes, as far as we know, yes.
No problem. Any questions for Mrs. Cavazos? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
is there going to be a runoff also? This is for the STCC.
I think, Mayor Pro Tem,
Is there-
there's only 2 running in that seat.
Yes, but the
I
dates are differently from the
It's-
runoff election from the county
Oh, you're talking about the county.
and the STC county race.
They didn't tell me anything
They
about the
haven't told me
runoff.
anything about that.
Yeah, they didn't.
Because I know that there's a runoff from the primary,
Yes.
and it's going to be in May.
We already approved.
But we're going to approve it the same, but they're going to start different dates, so that's,
Yeah, no, County hasn't contacted me for using the fire station number 2 or given me dates for the runoff.
But we did approve it
Right.
prior, so you're just waiting on the date. Right? You're just waiting on the
Yes, I'm just waiting on the dates because they,
And the only thing I'm asking is because those 2 elections are going to overlap each other a few days, and that's the only why I'm asking that. But kind of find out, so let us know. And they might be using the same facility, the fire station, and they're going to overlap, and they might just divide the room, but, so public cannot be confused, and
okay, I'll find out the dates for you because they provided the dates for the runoff yet.
okay. Okay, Mayor.
Sorry about that. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next item is discussion and possible action regarding rescheduling regular city commission meeting from Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018 to April the 30th, 2018 at 6 p.m. The reason being is there's going to be a Texas Water 2018 conference that will be held in San Antonio at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, where the majority of the commission will be attending. And it happens to be that the next meeting falls where the conference is going to be taking place. So we're asking that we can move it to April the 30th, which is on a Monday, the following Monday.
Yeah, and
3. That'll be Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Jesse Ramirez, and Commissioner Guajardo.
And just for the public, I think so that convention is for the water and sewers. And if some of the commissioners were to attend, that also would help the sewage department to get, progress on where people can, when we apply for grants or something else, that can also be used as something for the grant writer to put in there that some of the commission has taken part in some of those conferences.
30th. Okay, no problem. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item, Mayor Commissioners, consent agenda. There's 2 items on it, 3 items, A, B, and C. Should you need to pull any of those items to make an adequate decision, by all means.
At this time, is there anything we need to remove or amend under the consent agenda items? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting has been adjourned at 6:45 p.m. Thank you.